Look now at the kind of all-important how question. In this case, it's the how question from the Unit 3 paper from November 2018, which was to do with beaches and coasts. So it's worth looking out for the how question. You'll get at least one in the set of papers that you do. And what I would personally want to do is make sure that you're annotating the question itself, just to remind yourself of the sorts of things that you're looking for. So with a how question, a useful prompt that I tend to give myself is that any answer to a how question could begin with the word by. So how do you do something? Well, you do it by, and you then answer the question. But also you're going to be looking for techniques. All right, we'll talk a little bit about avoiding technique spotting. But much more than that, you're also going to need to be looking at word choices. All right, so by using techniques or by choosing particular words, the writer tries to persuade the reader to choose a holiday in Wales. Okay, so let's have a look at text D and see how the writer does. Try and make Wales basically sound good. Let's have a look. So the first thing you might realise is that the heading outlines 6 reasons why you should choose a holiday in Wales this year. So right from the start, we're given a significant number. We're given multiple reasons why Wales is a good place for a holiday. So what I might do is just annotate on the text. We've got multiple reasons. Then as we read through, you can see that it's been laid out to make those reasons very, very clear. Okay, and each one of those is actually a positive aspect of Wales. So I'm going to make a note of that myself. So beaches. What we've got are subheadings, which are positive aspects. So there's something there about layout. I'm going to want to talk about that in my answer. Just to remind myself, a lot of what we're talking about are choices, so word choices that the writer's going to make. So let's look for a particular word choice. Absolutely no need for you to jet off to the Mediterranean or the Seychelles to get your fill of blissful beach experiences. So we've got the word blissful, and we have got use of alliteration, but actually I think it's easier to talk about the word blissful because it's such a sort of positive, actually quite an exaggerated word to use here. So I'm not going to paint myself into a corner and force myself to talk about the alliteration. I'm going to keep it simple and talk about the adjective blissful and the effect that creates. Because actually what I might notice as I carry on reading is that we get a real pattern here in terms of word choices. We've got lots of positive adjectives to describe the coast of Wales. What we've also got here then is this sense of sort of variety. So it links back to what we said earlier. We've got these multiple reasons. So we've got variety of beach types and holiday types in Wales. I'm just going to make a note of the word variety there. Okay. So moving on, and we've already got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Moving on, so food and drink. Who doesn't love the now world-renowned Welsh cake or delicious Welsh rarebit? Yeah, we could talk about the rhetorical question here, but again, we've got to consider the question. How does the writer persuade the reader to choose a holiday in Wales? Well, you know, what we've got here is an appeal to a particular type of tourist. A haven for the foodie. So the technique used there is appealing to a particular type. Again, notice that, you know, I've avoided talking about the rhetorical question because it's hard to talk about. Here we've got, moving on, this idea of dog friendliness. I'm scanning, I'm looking for, you know, what's so positive about being a dog friendly place. Including your dog, every member of your family. So what we've got here is a sort of sense that it's inclusive. A holiday in Wales, kind of nobody is left out. Let's make a quick note of that. Okay, probably just want a couple more to make sure that I've got that variety. So some simple things, no passports, no worries. Yeah, all right, so that's fairly straightforward. We've got this sort of idea of it being hassle-free. No worries and no fret. So it's easy, it's convenient. Scanning down again, savings galore. Another persuasive aspect is that it's cheap. So it talks about savings. And I suppose what we've also got here then is the idea that, you know, you don't have to spend a long time. So again, this sort of idea of variety, going back to that word that we used up here. Okay, so looking at my highlighting, I've got a really good spread of things to talk about. I've made some notes to help me, like some prompts in terms of writing up my answer. So let's have a look. Let's start writing up. So we're going to start with the first thing that we highlighted. So we're going to point the reader where to look as a sort of easy default way of starting. So I'm going to say in the heading, the article attempts to portray Wales as having numerous or multiple reasons for visiting. And then I'm just going to embed the quote. So the quote is 6 reasons why. Okay, then I just need a little filler phrase. So it goes on to use subheadings. And as I said here, each subheading is a positive aspect. Of holidaying in Wales. Starting with, then I can just embed the quote again, starting with the beaches. Okay, what did I have next? Okay, now I'm focusing in on language. So most of the things I've talked about so far have been sort of layout features, but now it's quite useful. I'm going to talk about language choices and the positive adjectives. The author uses a series of positive adjectives, blissful, and what's the other one? Attractive. To underline their appeal, so I can call them there because we're talking about the beaches. Okay, that point's finished. Keep moving on. And I want to talk about the variety. And furthermore, highlights the range and variety of beaches available. Embed the quote. From wild empty beaches to major seaside resorts. Okay, moving on. Yeah, so we were talking about appealing to a particular readership. So later appeals to a particular readership. The foodie, to show how Wales to different groups. And then I'm trying to find a link here. So the idea, like basically everybody is welcome, everybody's included, nobody's left out. So it's quite a nice link there. And this sense of inclusivity continues as it welcomes dog owners and their dogs. Find the quote that I can use. So I'm not going to use including, I'm going to talk about every member of the family. In fact, okay, let's move on. So a couple of quite easy points here, I think, like the stress-free and the cost. The writer. So we've used appeals, we've used underlines. So I need a different verb. The writer cites the lack of hassle and stress of holidaying in Wales. So actually the technique is kind of comparing it to foreign holiday. Forget about arriving at the airport. By comparing it to a foreign holiday and needing to furthermore, okay, I'm just going to move straight into this next point. Furthermore, the savings. So it's a furthermore because it's a similar point, like it's a similar comparison with foreign holidays. It's hassle-free compared to foreign holidays, and furthermore, it mentions the savings of holidaying in Wales compared to, I think it compares it to going abroad. Yeah. Compared to a holiday overseas. Then let's just add in one more. Finally, the article finishes with a reminder that Wales is convenient for short breaks. And now I'm going to come full circle because at the beginning, multiple reasons for visiting. So I'm going to come full circle back to that idea that there are lots of reasons for visiting Wales. Showing that it is suitable for a range of different lengths of holiday. Okay, so not an awful lot of writing. We've tried to keep it sort of fairly to the point, particularly these two here. Reasonable flow to it, and then if we have a look at the mark scheme, let's see which bits we included. So we talked about the title. We didn't mention the direct address, the direct appeal, but it's a fairly obvious technique you might have talked about. I've got wide selection, so we use the word variety. Multiple reasons. We talked about the comparison with going to Wales rather than abroad. Yeah, we chose not to talk about the questions. We did talk about the subtitles, did talk about the positive language, we talked about pets, we talked about the finance. Yeah, we didn't mention the overall lively tone and style. Yeah, it's quite engaging, quite friendly. Okay, but we'd certainly be looking at 9 to 10. We've got accurate, perceptive comments about a range of different examples, so the layout, but also the language choice. So language and techniques influence the reader. Accurate use of linguistic terminology. Yeah, we haven't got loads of that, but we've talked about subheadings, we talked about positive adjectives, we talked about comparisons. So, there's plenty there, certainly for that top band of 9 or 10.